Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer with almost 25 years of experience. I try cases. I love trying cases. I feel most at home cross-examining the shit out of people that I love to cross-examine, cops. But anyway, today's episode, as always, is brought to you by eforms.com. That's eforms.com. If you need a form, any kind of legal form, go to eforms.com. It will help you. And it's so cool. It's a great resource if you have a loan agreement, a lease agreement, a power of attorney, anything form related. I use them, and it's so much easier than reinventing the wheel. So go to eforms.com, because if you went to me, I would just go to eforms.com and then write it all up for you and charge you a shit ton of money. And guess what? Just go to eforms.com so you don't have to worry about paying me what you can get from them for free. Anyway, so today we're reacting to the Allen Weisselberg plea that happened last week. Now, Allen Weisselberg pled guilty to 15 felony counts. He owes almost $2 million in tax restitution payments. Who is Allen Weisselberg, and why does this matter to the organization? If you remember, how did they get Al Capone? They got him through a fucking bookkeeper, and it was taxes that got Al Capone. Allen Weisselberg has the keys to the kingdom. In other words, for 40 years, he worked for the Trump organization. He was the CFO, the chief financial officer. He's the one that wrote the checks. But here's the thing. The Trump organization isn't this multinational conglomerate with all these people. It's a fucking mom and pop shop. You got dad, you got sons and daughter. And you got Allen Weisselberg, maybe a handful of other people. But it's a very closely held corporation. And nothing happens without Trump knowing it. Nothing happens without his direction. That's a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners are hyper controlling. They want to control their destiny. They want to make sure they know. And not a dollar left that organization without Trump knowing about it, right? So you've got Allen Weisselberg, who knows where all the bodies are buried. He is the chief financial officer. He is the one that can say, yeah, that's Donald Trump's signature. That's Donald Trump's signature. That's Donald on the tax returns, on the checks, on this and that. So he is a key player. Why is this important? Well, let's just talk about what the agreement was. There's two key components to the agreement. The agreement calls for him to serve 5 months in jail, which is nothing, really. And he'll probably just do halfway house time at that. Who knows? But 5 months is all he's going to do. And for 15 federal fucking counts, that is an amazing sentence. But if we also look at what he's also required to do, is he's required to testify not against Trump himself, but against the organization. Why is that important? That's important because once he pleads, he no longer has the protection of criminal liability because he's already pled to everything they're going to charge him with. So he can't claim the Fifth Amendment. So if after he's done testifying against the organization, they want him to testify against Trump, he's going to have to. He will have to, because he can't claim the Fifth Amendment. And what's also, even if there was some exposure somewhere, the prosecutors could certainly give him immunity. So it's yet to be seen exactly what's going to happen with him. But where does this put Trump? First of all, let's analyze what's going on with Trump. Trump has so many irons in the fire. He's got 20 civil lawsuits. He's got cops from January 6th suing him. He's got a defamation case from a lady suing him. He's got all kinds of civil lawsuits. But who kind of gives a shit about that? That's just about money, and these people can come and go, and it is what it is. But he's got the Florida probe where the feds went in and searched his place for documents. You've got the Georgia probe where they are convening a grand jury for election fraud or election interference. And then you have this New York thing. And this New York thing, I think, is bigger than anybody thinks it is because he hasn't paid taxes in the last 20, 30 years. And this highlights a scheme to defraud the state of New York and the federal government of taxes. And how did they do that? One of the things that he did was They've inflated the value and deflated the value, depending upon who their audience was. If it's the federal government, they deflate it. If it's banks, they inflate it. Alan Weisselberg himself owes over almost $2 million, 1.9 and some change in taxes that the feds are going to try to collect from him, or that's part of the agreement that he owes. Think about that. That's a lot of money, and that's over probably 15 years worth of income taxes. If you look at those numbers, I know one of the numbers Trump had claimed back, I think in the 90s, 900 million in depreciation from one of the assets or a number of them. And he carried that forward a number of years, and it was all bullshit. And the thing about this is Weisselberg will go in front of a grand jury or wherever and assist in the prosecution of the organization, the Trump organization. That could very well bankrupt Trump's operation. Trump owes over $600 million in loans. Now, his agreement specifically didn't require him to testify against Donald Trump himself. And people have made a big deal out about that. There's no cooperation agreement. He's not cooperating. Well, bullshit. He got 5 months on 15 fucking felony counts. That doesn't happen. Okay, that does not happen without an agreement. And guess what? You don't file those agreements. You do not file those in court. It's called a 5K1. A 5K1 is an agreement to render substantial assistance to the government, right? You don't put that in a plea agreement. Why don't you put that in a plea agreement? Especially in a conspiracy case, because other people will try to fuck with you then. And because all the filings are public. And so if you have a gang case and you put down who the cooperators are, guess what? Those cooperators run the risk of getting killed. And so, or there's retaliation, or there's some other manipulation. So you never see those agreements. So whether there's an agreement to cooperate or not, we won't know it. So any of the talking heads that are talking about that there's no agreement to cooperate against Donald Trump, it's against the organization, that's all window dressing, because that's probably 100% BS. He's getting 5 months on a 15 federal count. It's been talked about that the agreement itself doesn't also protect him from any further prosecution. But guess what? He pled guilty to 15 fucking felonies. They're not going to go after him again. I think they went after him with everything they probably had. So I don't think he runs the risk of all of a sudden, now I've got this deal. Oh, shit, we forgot about that murder in New Jersey. First of all, no agreement would cover you on a homicide. But I doubt that there's anything out there that he hasn't already pled to that he's got to worry about. So my sense is that his lawyers know what they're doing, that they've constructed this agreement, and there is, I guarantee you, there's a tacit agreement that he has to cooperate not only against the organization, but against Donald Trump himself. This is a public relations stance that people are taking, or that he's taking, so that throws Donald Trump off the scent, in the sense that, but he's pled, and he's going to cooperate, and if he doesn't cooperate, guess what? Guess what happens? That 5 months turns into a lot longer prison sentence. So it'll probably be quite a while before he's actually sentenced and does his time, because guess what? You have to perform before you get the benefit of the bargain. And so it'll be a while before we see him get the benefit of that bargain. In other words, do his time. Now let's shift gears just a second to Fulton County, Georgia. So Lindsey Graham was before a federal judge, and the federal judge refused to stay his order. His order said you have to cooperate. So next week he's got to be before a grand jury, period. Rudy Giuliani testified for, I think, 6 or 8 hours before the grand jury. You've got a prosecutor down there who's very aggressive, and you watch what happens with her. I would not be surprised if she charges a RICO. I doubt that she will, but she very well, I mean, that is pretty, if she could threaten RICO by anybody that continued to participate in that, that may or may not be a possibility. But I think the Georgia case is going to heat up way faster than everybody thought, because there's a lot going on there. If they don't have the facts, guess what? That's when you file a motion. That's when you file a motion to suppress the evidence based upon illegal search and seizure. That is Trump's remedy. And Trump has said recently that he's threatening to file a lawsuit. For what? I mean, everything's been done in the legal way. He's got no remedy here. He's got no remedy until he's charged with a crime. And that's when he can file a motion for the suppression of evidence based upon an illegal search and seizure, the Fourth Amendment. But here's the other thing that they talk a lot, right? And they talk about how they came in with guns, they did this, they did that. But, so they have cameras all over Mar-a-Lago, right? Yeah, they do. The Trump organization could release those videos. But they don't want to do that because it doesn't fit their narrative. They don't, these jackbooted thugs with machine guns, with this, with that. That probably didn't happen. And here's the thing. They didn't just go in half-cocked, right? They've been in talks with Trump's team for a long time. Trump's team said, the National Archives and the feds have said, we're missing these documents, you need to bring them back. So they brought 15 boxes back. So then he said, well, we're still missing this and this and this. And his lawyers told them, we don't have anything else. So then they served subpoenas on them that they didn't respond to. So this isn't like they just are out to get Trump. They've been working with him, and Trump could have done this in a different way. Now they've taken, I think, 11 sets of documents. I'm not exactly sure the number, but and let's hope nothing comes of it, and it is bullshit, because who wants to see a former president charged with a crime? I don't necessarily want to. I do think it's fascinating, though. But Merrick Garland wouldn't have authorized this if he didn't think he had the goods. It's really important that, we take a step back and look at it critically. I'm not saying Trump's guilty of anything at all. But his remedies, are... And so he's hired one of the best defense lawyers in Georgia, Drew Feinling, former president of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, lawyer to Gucci Mane and Kodak Black, and he actually got Gucci Mane acquitted of a homicide. So he's got good talent. I mean, I'm glad to see that he's got good talent down there in Georgia, and he's been out there talking about that this is politically motivated, and he's saying all the right things that he's supposed to say. But we'll see what happens. And I want to give a shout out to Yigal Miller. I'm probably butchering it because it was written in Hebrew, and so I'm not sure if I got it quite right. But he is our $100 Patreon subscriber. And so I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Miller and really appreciate your support. Keep watching. And Mr. Miller or anybody else from the Patreon family, if you've got an idea that you want to see covered, hit us up. We've been more than happy to accommodate you. Really appreciate all the support. We're over 700,000 strong. And we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, like what you like, follow, go on Shopify, Stop Yourself Snitching. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God.